Good morning, team, and welcome to this week's Thursday Thoughts. Today I'm talking about anxiety. It's a bit of a hot topic in my world at the moment, and something that's been coming up in lots of conversations that I've been having with different people around supporting children, especially, but also supporting adults that might be suffering from anxiety as well. And I guess today I wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between anxious feelings and anxious thoughts and anxiety. Because when we refer to anxiety, we're typically talking about the impact that a persistent anxious feeling or anxious thought has on our ability to access other things in our daily life. So when our body is experiencing anxiety, our fight and flight system is turned on, our frontal cortex is switched off, our thinking brain, it's switched off, and we're really struggling to enact everyday tasks due to the symptoms that are caused by our anxiety, which could be some of those feelings like nauseousness or an excessive heart rate. It could be some of those excessive thoughts that you're having a really difficult time changing. That is anxiety, and whilst it's common, it's not typically normal to experience anxiety. So if it starts to happen and we're experiencing anxiety and that's causing an impact on our daily life, that usually means it's time to go and seek some professional support around that and figure out some new coping strategies or ways to manage that. Anxious feelings and anxious thoughts, though, are very normal, and they happen to every single one of us all the time. They are things that we experience as an everyday emotion. And just because we have an anxious feeling or an anxious thought at times doesn't necessarily mean that we have or that we are suffering from anxiety. Anxious feelings and anxious thoughts are really typical behaviours that occur, and we need those in our life because they are what help us know, to not take risks that are too extreme. They give us that sense of reality around some risk-taking behaviours, and they give us a sense of reality around things that make us feel nervous for various reasons, and encourage us to think about felt safety and how we might feel safe by still engaging in that type of activity or behaviour. So anxious feelings and anxious thoughts are really important as a part of our everyday life. When we have anxious feelings or anxious thoughts, it's still really important to come up with coping strategies to manage those so that they don't then manifest into something more persistent like an anxiety that then interrupts our daily living and interrupts our daily life. So I've posted on my socials this week some top tips around supporting somebody who might be experiencing both anxious feelings and anxious thoughts, or who might be suffering from anxiety. And a lot of those strategies are just around validating and identifying and supporting young people or people with those feelings. So it can be using phrases like, I can see that this is really challenging for you. It can be saying, I can see that this is making you feel scared, or that you're feeling unsafe about this. And then supporting them with ways to use those coping strategies to calm our survival system down. So some of the really common ones that you might hear and see other people talking about at different times is using your 5 senses to identify different things in the room. That's because it's a nice distracting tool, and it distracts your busy brain from whatever that anxious thought that might be repeating in it is happening. There can be other distracting routines and methods like using something mindful, doing some mindfulness activities like colouring in, listening to music. I often encourage people to sing the lyrics to their favourite song, because these are all types of things that turn our frontal cortex, our thinking brain, back on during those phases where we might be using our fight, flight or freeze survival system. There are other coping strategies like meditation or resetting the environment completely, like going and giving yourself a cold shower or a warm shower, taking yourself outdoors if your anxious feelings have been happening indoors, or vice versa. Sometimes it can be taking a rest, like a nap, if you can use some strategies like muscle relaxation, where you tense each muscle in your body and then slowly release them. Those are all things that can quiet down that brain stem of ours and stop some of those feelings from manifesting in our body. Now, unless we support our body to overcome some of those feelings, then we may not be able to cope with them particularly well when we're in a challenging position. So it's really, really, really important to practice those skills even when you're feeling calm and relaxed. So that's my Thursday thought, thinking about, is this an anxious feeling, an anxious thought, which is really common and normal and something we need, or is this anxiety because it's actually interfering with my everyday life And maybe it might be time to go and talk with somebody else about that. Thanks for listening, guys. See you next week.